Commander Vale isn't coming back, and neither is the woman who followed him into that canyon. The words came from Lieutenant Cole Ramsey as the SEAL team stood beneath the hard white sun, staring at the empty extraction road cutting through the desert. No one corrected him, because no one wanted to say what they were all thinking. Their commander had missed 2 check-ins. The drone feed had gone black, and the last person seen moving toward his position was a quiet woman in a faded field jacket who didn't look like she belonged anywhere near a SEAL operation. To them, Alina Cross was just a civilian tracker with an old rifle case. Nobody knew why she never opened it. Camp Iron Mesa was built in the kind of desert that turns sound into distance and confidence into thirst. It sat near the border of Nevada and Utah, surrounded by broken cliffs, dry washes, and miles of red stone that looked beautiful from a helicopter and merciless on foot. The SEAL detachment stationed there had come for a joint rescue and recovery exercise. The kind of training meant to prepare elite teams for failed extractions, missing personnel, and hostile terrain where technology could not always be trusted. Commander Nathan Vale had designed the final phase himself. Out there, he told his team that morning, pointing toward the canyon system beyond the ridge, rank matters less than judgment, equipment matters less than patience, and pride gets men killed faster than bullets. Lieutenant Ramsey had smiled when he said it, because he thought the lesson was meant for the younger operators. Ramsey was 34, strong, sharp, and decorated enough to believe he had earned the right to stop listening before a sentence ended. He was respected by the team, but not loved. He pushed hard, moved fast, and measured competence by volume, speed, and how closely a person matched his idea of a warrior. That was why Alina Cross annoyed him before she ever spoke. She arrived in an old tan Jeep, driving alone through the gate with dust covering the windshield and a long rifle case strapped across the back seat. She wore a faded field jacket over a plain gray shirt, weathered boots, and a sun-bleached cap pulled low enough to hide most of her face. She looked 40, maybe 45, though the desert had a way of adding years to anyone who knew how to survive in it. There was no unit patch on her shoulder, no polished badge, no tactical drama. Just a woman stepping out of a Jeep, closing the door quietly, and looking toward the canyon like she had been there before. Ramsey watched her from beside the equipment table. Who ordered the park ranger? A few SEALs laughed. Petty Officer Lucas Grant leaned over a crate of radios and said, "Maybe she is here to teach us which cactus is friendly." Alina walked toward Commander Vale without reacting. She carried a folded paper map in one hand and a small metal compass in the other. No tablet, no GPS unit, no digital navigation tool. Ramsey noticed and laughed louder. "Ma'am," he called. "The museum is 2 exits back." Alina stopped near the table. Vale turned Lieutenant. Ramsey straightened, but his grin stayed. "Just making sure our guest knows this isn't a hiking tour." Alina looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were pale gray, calm, and difficult to read. If it were a hiking tour, you'd already be lost. The laughter died for half a second. Vale almost smiled. Ramsey didn't. Commander Vale stepped between them. "Team, this is Alina Cross. She'll consult on terrain reading for the canyon phase." Ramsey stared at her. "Civilian consultant?" "Yes. We reusing a civilian to train SEALs on desert movement?" Vale's voice stayed even. "We reusing the person who knows this canyon better than anyone on this base." Alina unfolded the map and placed it on the hood of a vehicle. The paper was old, soft at the creases and marked with pencil lines that didn't match any official map layer. Ramsey leaned closer, then looked back at the command where digital terrain models glowed on 2 large screens. "You know we have satellite overlays, right?" Alina traced one finger along a narrow wash. "Your satellite overlay is 9 months old." Ramsey scoffed. The terrain didn't move. She tapped the map twice. "This did." Commander Vale looked down. "Flash flood? 3 weeks ago." Vale nodded slowly, as though that confirmed something he already suspected. Ramsey crossed his arms. "We would seen that in recon." Alina folded the map halfway and looked toward the far cliffs. "You didn't," Grant muttered. She asked cheerful. The first humiliation came during equipment check. Each operator reviewed weapons, comms, medical packs, and navigation gear before the desert movement. Alina stood at the end of the table, checking her compass against the sun, while Ramsey inspected the long rifle case in her Jeep. He tapped the case with his knuckles. "You planning to open this? Or is it just for decoration?" Alina didn't look up. "Not today. Afraid we'll judge the rifle?" "No, then what?" She slid the compass into her jacket pocket. "I made a promise." Ramsey looked at Grant and raised his eyebrows. "A promise that's comforting." Grant played along. "Maybe the rifle gets nervous." Ramsey lifted the case slightly, testing the weight. "What is in here, old hunting glass?" Alina's voice changed by 1 degree. Put it down. Not loud, not sharp, just final. Several men turned. Ramsey smiled, pleased to find something that mattered to her. Relax. I'm not going to hurt your antique. Commander Vale stepped closer. Lieutenant, leave it. Ramsey released the case, but not gently. It knocked once against the jeep seat. Alina's jaw tightened. Vale saw it. Ramsey saw it too, but misread it as embarrassment. Understood, Commander. He said, wouldn't want to damage our consultant's emotional support equipment. The team laughed again, though less comfortably this time. Alina walked to the jeep, adjusted the strap around the case, and checked the latch with 2 fingers. As she leaned in, her sleeve pulled back just enough to reveal the edge of an old tattoo near her wrist. A thin black line, a half circle, and 3 faded marks beneath it. Commander Vale noticed, so did Petty Officer Grant. Ramsey did not. Vale's expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. He looked at the tattoo, then at Alina's face, then away before the others could follow his attention. At 0900, the team moved toward the canyon. The exercise was simple on paper. Commander Vale would lead a 4-man element through a dry wash system, simulate a vehicle ambush, and establish an emergency extraction point, while the second element tracked and recovered them under degraded communications. Alina would accompany the command element for terrain evaluation. Ramsey hated that part most. You taking her with you? He asked. Vale tightened his pack strap. Yes, Commander, with respect, if this goes sideways, she slows you down. Alina adjusted the brim of her cap. I walk faster than you think. Ramsey looked her over. I doubt that. Vale stepped closer. Lieutenant, run the recovery element. Follow protocol. Listen to Grant on comms, and if Alina gives terrain advice, take it seriously. Ramsey's mouth tightened. Yes, sir. The first 2 hours went according to plan. Vale's element moved into the canyon system, checking in every 20 minutes. Ramsey's team tracked from the staging area, using drone feeds, satellite images, and position markers. Alina spoke rarely on the radio, but when she did, it was always about terrain. Do not use the east cut, she said during the second check-in. Rockfall at the mouth. Ramsey rolled his eyes in the command tent. Drone shows open. Vale's voice came through the radio. We retaking west. Ramsey stared at the speaker. Unbelievable. 20 minutes later, the drone feed drifted over the east cut and caught a shadow beneath the cliff. A fresh rockfall, half hidden from above, blocked the route completely. Grant looked at Ramsey. Ramsey ignored him. At the third check-in, Alina said, wind is turning. Ramsey looked at the weather station. No, it is T. Vale answered over comms. We can feel it in the wash, Ramsey muttered. Of course she can. By 12:20, the first problem appeared. A dust wall moved across the southern flats. Faster than forecast, static began chewing through the radio channel. The drone image flickered. The command tent grew tense, but nobody panicked. Dust interference was part of the exercise. Then Commander Vale missed check-in 4. Ramsey stood over the radio operator. Try again. The operator adjusted frequency. Iron 1, this is Mesa Command. Radio check. Static. Grant moved to the screen. Drone feed is dropping. I can see that. Ramsey snapped. The feed flashed once, showing a blurred image of the canyon mouth, 3 figures moving near a rock shelf, and Alina looking up sharply towards something out of frame. Then black. The tent fell silent. Ramsey checked his watch. Signal loss. Exercise continues. Grant frowned. Commander Vale missed check-in. By 2 minutes. 3. Ramsey turned on him. You want to call a real-world emergency because a dust storm hit our signal? Grant hesitated. Before he could answer, the radio cracked once. Vale's voice came through, broken and low. Ridge compromised. Moving north. Cross nose route, then static again. Ramsey grabbed the handset. Iron 1. Repeat. Commander. Repeat. Nothing. The silence that followed was different. It didn't feel like training anymore. Ramsey looked at the map. North route, he said. We move now. Grant pointed to Alina's pencil map still lying on the table. She marked north route as unstable. She also thinks rocks move and wind talks. Her last 2 calls were right. Ramsey's face hardened. Gear up. The recovery element formed within minutes. 4 SEALs, 2 medics, and Ramsey leading. The dust storm had thickened, turning the desert yellow and flattening the horizon. Before they stepped off, Commander Vale's last transmission replayed in everyone's mind. Cross nose route. Ramsey heard it too, and hated it. They reached the first canyon split 40 minutes later. The official route bent north into a tight passage between cliffs. Alina's pencil map marked that passage with a single word. No. Ramsey stared at it. Grant spoke carefully. We should take the west shelf. That adds 40 minutes, may save us more than that. Ramsey looked into the north passage. The sand there was smooth, sheltered from wind, almost inviting. That route is clear. Grant lowered his voice. That's what worries me. Ramsey stepped forward. We move north. The team followed. 10 minutes into the passage, The ground began to change. Fine cracks appeared in the dry clay. Pebbles shifted under their boots. Somewhere above them, stone clicked against stone. Grant stopped. Lieutenant. Ramsey lifted one hand. Keep moving. The canyon wall groaned. Then the passage ahead collapsed in a roar of dust and rock. The team threw themselves back as stone filled the route, blocking the exit completely. For several seconds, nobody moved. Ramsey coughed dust from his lungs and stared at the new wall of rock where his path had been. Grant looked at him. Anger barely controlled, she marked it. Ramsey said nothing. From somewhere beyond the blocked passage, faint and almost swallowed by the wind, came three sharp sounds, not gunshots. Signal taps. Grant froze. Did you hear that? Another. 3 taps, then 2, then 1. Ramsey's face changed. Grant whispered, that S not standard SEAL signal. No, it was T, but from the other side of the collapsed canyon. Someone was answering with a code, older than the current team, older than Ramsey's career, older than any exercise plan on the base, and whatever it meant, Alina Cross was alive. Canyon fell silent again, not the peaceful silence of an empty desert, the heavy kind, the kind that followed falling stone. Lieutenant Cole Ramsey stared at the wall of shattered rock blocking the passage. Dust drifted through the air in slow gray ribbons, while small pebbles continued rolling down from the cliffs above. Nobody moved. Then 3 sharp taps echoed from somewhere beyond the collapse. Tap, tap, tap. Petty Officer Lucas Grant lifted his head immediately. There another pause, then 2 taps. 1. Grant's face changed. That's not a distress signal. Ramsey looked at him. You recognize it? Grant nodded slowly. My first instructor used to talk about it. What is it? He called it ghost code. The words settled over the team. Nobody laughed. Not this time. Ramsey grabbed the radio. Iron 1, this is recovery. Commander, respond. Static, nothing. He tried again. Commander, Vale, silence. Grant looked toward the rock slide. They re-alive. You don't know that? I know, someone answered. Ramsey tightened his grip on the radio. Move, we re-climbing 200 yards away. Beyond the collapsed canyon, Commander. Nathan Vale leaned against a fractured sandstone wall. Blood running from a cut above his left eyebrow. One ankle was trapped beneath a slab of rock. His satellite radio lay crushed beneath another, across from him. Alina Cross knelt quietly beside the narrow opening where sunlight spilled through the broken canyon. She tapped the butt of a folding knife against the rock. 3, 2, 1. Then she waited. A faint answer came back. Grant had heard it. A small smile crossed her face. They re-close. Vale looked toward her. I told them you didn't know the way. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked upward. The cliffs were still moving. Tiny grains of sand trickled between cracks. Another collapse was coming. Back on the rescue side, the recovery team reached the top of the ridge. From there, the canyon finally revealed its true shape. The official route, the one Ramsey had insisted on using, ended beneath 30 feet of collapsed stone, the western shelf. The one Alina had marked remained completely open. Grant didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Ramsey looked at the map still folded inside his pocket for the first time all day. He unfolded Alina's handwritten version. Every warning she'd marked, every note, every crossed-out trail, every dangerous wash, every alternate route, all of it. Correct, he slowly looked toward the western ridge. We should be listened, Grant answered quietly. Yes. They pushed west. The climb became steeper. Heat reflected off the sandstone. Water disappeared faster than expected. One of the younger operators slipped while crossing loose shale. Ramsey caught him before he fell. The pace slowed. The sun climbed higher. Then Grant stopped walking. What? Grant pointed toward the ground. Fresh footprints. Small, light, steady. Not Commander. Vale Salinas. Ramsey knelt beside them. They were only an hour old. Grant shook his head. No less. He touched the edge of one print. The wind hasn't softened it yet. Ramsey stood move. Meanwhile, Alina had already solved the problem everyone else was still trying to understand. Commander Vale couldn't walk. The canyon wall continued shifting. Waiting for rescue inside the collapse meant waiting to die. She removed her backpack, pulled out 50 feet of climbing cord, wrapped it around the stone pinning. Vale's leg, he looked at her. What are you doing? Changing the leverage. It weighs half a ton. I know you can move it, no. But gravity can. She anchored the rope around a weathered juniper growing from the cliff, then climbed 20 feet higher. Commander Vale watched quietly. You've done this before? No, she smiled faintly. I've survived it before. 30 minutes later, the rescue team heard another sound. Not tapping metal, a single sharp crack echoing across the canyon. Grant froze, a rifle bolt. Ramsey listened. One round chambered. Grant looked toward him. That's not random. No, it's a signal. Ramsey checked his compass. The sound came from. He stopped. The direction made no sense. It pointed toward a cliff with no visible path. Grant looked at Alina's map. One faded pencil line climbed directly toward that same cliff. The line carried only one handwritten note. Old Overwatch. Ramsey stared. What does that mean? Nobody answered. At the top of the ridge. Alina reached the abandoned observation ledge. The place hadn't been used in years. A faded camouflage tarp still lay beneath the rocks. An old brass casing rested beside it. She picked it up, turned it once in her fingers, then quietly placed it back exactly where it had been. Commander Vale watched from below. You came back. She looked across the endless desert. I said, I never touched the rifle. He smiled weakly. You never said you wouldn't come back? She opened the old rifle case. For 16 years, the rifle hadn't fired. Dust covered the stock. The leather sling had darkened with age. She checked the chamber, worked the bolt, once smooth, exactly as she remembered. Commander Vale closed his eyes. I hoped I'd never hear that sound again. Alina rested the rifle across the old stone ledge. I did too. Back with the rescue team. Grant suddenly lifted his binoculars. I've got movement. Ramsey grabbed them. Nothing then. A brief flash, sunlight reflecting off old scope glass. His breathing stopped. There Grant followed the direction. On the highest ridge, a lone figure lay prone behind a rifle. Impossible. Too far away to identify. Too steady to mistake. The figure didn't wave, didn't signal, didn't move, just watched. Then a single rifle shot echoed across the canyon. The sound rolled through the cliffs, not toward them, above them. Everyone instinctively looked up. A massive slab of unstable rock broke loose from the ridge. It crashed harmlessly down the opposite slope instead of onto the trapped canyon below. Grant stared. She just redirected the slide. Ramsey slowly lowered the binoculars. His face had completely changed. For the first time since meeting Alina Cross, he understood. She hadn't carried that rifle because she missed the past. She carried it because one day, someone might need Ghost 7 again. High above the canyon, Alina slowly lowered the rifle, then looked toward the rescue team. Commander Vale's voice came through the wind, barely louder than a whisper. They found us. Alina nodded once. Yes, but they still don't know who they re-following. Commander Vale smiled. They re-about to.